So after we talked about the 4 values of Agile, it's time now to talk about the 12 Agile principles. So these 12 principles, like we said, are based on the 4 values that we talked about in the last video. So let's begin to read these 12 principles, explain them, because we will use them throughout our course. Anything that we will talk about Agile or Agile testing is based on these 12 principles. So let's begin by the first principle. The first principle states that our highest priority is to satisfy the customer throughout early and continuous delivery of valuable software. So, like we said in the 4 values, customer collaboration is more important than contract negotiation. So this is the same here. The first priority, the highest priority in any Agile project is customer satisfaction, is to make the customer satisfied. How? By early and continuous delivery. So we deliver the software to the customer early from the beginning throughout iterations. From, for example, week 1, we can give him some functioning software. We call it, for example, MVP, minimum valuable product, something that he can give us feedback based on its quality. And continuous. So, for example, each week, each 2 weeks, depending on the life cycle that we will use, we give the customer a valuable software. So this is the first principle. The next principle states that deliver working software frequently. So this is the same. In order to make the customer satisfied, you must deliver working software to him frequently. But what are the intervals? At intervals of between a few weeks to a few months. So the smallest iteration in Agile or sprint, like we say here, the frequency is 1 week. And the biggest thing, for example, in something that's called RUP or Rational Unified Process is 3 months. So from 1 week to 3 months, but with a preference to the shorter time scale. So if you can deliver a working software each week or each 2 weeks, do this. This is better for the quality of the software and for the customer satisfaction and feedback, of course. Then the next principle states that working software is the primary measure of progress. Like we said in the 4 values, working software is more important than comprehensive documentation. So how can we measure our progress throughout our project? By having a working software that works good. It might have some defects. It might not have all the functionalities that we thought of or that the customer wants, but at least it has some functionalities that we can get feedback from the customer based on them. So working software is the primary measure of progress. Then we talk about requirements, the change in requirements. So, like we said in the 4 values, responding to change is more important than following a plan. So, if the requirement changed, this is a type of responding to change. We must respond to this type of change. So, welcome changing requirements, even late in development, even if it has been 2 months since the beginning of the project and the customer came and he wants some type of change or adjustment in the requirements. We must welcome this because customer collaboration is important. Agile processes harness change for the customer's competitive advantage. So like we said, nowadays in 2020, we have a very competitive market, and that makes us must do a lot of changes inside our project based on the behavior of our competitors. We need to have some campaigns like them or better than them. So we think of changing requirements as a type of competitive advantage. This is the thing that will make our customer has a competitive advantage over his other customers in the market. So like this picture says, the client kept changing the requirements on a daily basis, so we decided to freeze them until the next release. So they decided to freeze the requirements so that the customer cannot change them. This is wrong. This is not agile. So this is considered as a comic. The next principle, continuous attention to technical excellence and good design enhances agility. So what does this mean? This means that in order to be successful in agile projects, in a very fast-paced environment, in a very changing environment, you must have a good attention to technical excellence. Whether we are talking about code, whether we are talking about design, or the process that we use inside our company. Why? Because if we are doing, for example, if we are writing our code in a bad way from the beginning, like we call it spaghetti code, when we need to perform some changes based on the previous principle because the customer needs them, it would become very difficult to do these changes because from the beginning we wrote a bad code, and in this case we have a situation that is called a technical debt. We have a type of debt that we must pay for. So in order to not fall in this situation, you must have a good attention to technical excellence and good design. Then, Agile processes promote sustainable development. The sponsors, developers, and users should be able to maintain a constant pace indefinitely. What does this mean? This means that the whole team must have the same knowledge about the project. For example, if we are talking about testers, developers, and product owners, we cannot say that the tester is working very fast and the developers cannot keep pace with him, or the developers are working so fast but the customer is not understanding what is happening inside the project. No, each one of us has the same level of understanding. If some of us, for example, or if one of us, the tester or any other person is very slow, we will help him, we will take his hand and guide him throughout the process until we all have a constant pace. We all walk with the same steps. The next principle is simplicity. And I consider this as my favorite principle in Agile and in Agile testing. Simplicity, the art of maximizing the amount of work not done, is essential. Many people misunderstand this principle or don't understand it just from reading it. So what do we mean by simplicity? Simplicity means that anything, any work product or any activity that will not give me a value inside my project, I will not do it. Let's have an example from a testing perspective. Writing low-level test cases. This is a good thing. We need it in many projects, especially safety-critical projects. But if writing test cases will not give value to this project, we will not write them. We will work in exploratory testing. For example, another thing, automation testing. Automation testing is good. It reduces regression risks. It makes us, it allows us to perform many changes inside the project. But also, if inside my project, if in the scope of my project, the automation testing will not give me a high value, I will not use it. The same applies to development methodologies, testing methodologies, and the managerial methodologies. For example, daily stand-up meeting, retrospectives. The things that gives me value in my project, I will do it. The things that I think that will hinder my project or will make my team not satisfied or the customer not satisfied, I will not do it, even it is considered as a good practice. Then we have something that is dependent on the team. Build projects around motivated individuals, give them the environment and support they need, and trust them to get the job done. So in Agile, you must choose your team very wisely, okay? If you want to work in an Agile environment, if you are a manager, for example, or a test leader or a development leader, in this case, you must choose your team wisely. Your team must be Agile. They must have an Agile mindset. So you must build your project around motivated individuals. If you have motivated people inside your project, and you give them the support and the trust they need, they will get the job done without any interference from you as a manager. Then we have the best architectures, requirements, and designs emerge from self-organizing teams. Agile does not promote the idea of micromanagement. The manager that, like this picture, orders his employees in everything, okay? He needs to be involved in everything inside the project. This is not an Agile mindset. In Agile, no, the team manages themselves. The team is self-organizing. We as a team, the whole team, decide what is going to be done today, what is going to be done next day, and if we have any problem, we as a whole team decide what should we do to face this problem. Then we have business people and developers must work together daily throughout the project. So he talks here about business people and developers. Where are the testers? Okay, the Agile Manifesto was written in 2001. And in this year, there was not a separate role that is called a tester. Some companies had this role, but most of the companies, the testing was part of the development team. So throughout the syllabus, throughout Agile testing, when we talk about the development team, we mean developers and testers, okay? The technical people, whether they are developers, designers, or testers. So here he says that business people and developers must work together daily. There must be a daily feedback between the development team and the business people. Even if the customer is not or doesn't have enough time to get feedback or to give us input on the progress of the project, we have a separate role that is called the product owner, and this person is a representative of the customer, and in this case we have this type of daily collaboration throughout the project. Then this principle is very important. The most efficient and effective method of conveying information to and within a development team is face-to-face conversation. Anything that can be done by face-to-face conversation should be done by face-to-face conversation, not through WhatsApp, not through emails, not through a test management tool or a defect management tool. That's why, for example, in Agile, we have something that's called daily stand-up meeting. We stand up throughout the day or at the beginning of the day as a team, and we talk about the progress of our project. So it does not mean that we will not document our work, we will not use tools, but like we said, the documentation, the comprehensive documentation is not the most important thing in Agile projects, okay? Collaboration between the team is more important. That's why we need to make conversations face-to-face as much as possible. Of course, this is not applicable, for example, in teams that work from different locations around the world. But if we can do this, we should do this because this is an Agile principle. Then we have at regular intervals, the team reflects on how to become more effective, then tunes and adjusts its behavior accordingly. So each amount of time, the team together begin to reflect on their progress throughout something that is called a retrospective meeting, which we will talk about later. So for example, every day or every week or every month, the team sits together and begin to think what are the good things that we did in the previous period, what are the bad things that we need to stop doing, and what are the things that we didn't do and that we should begin doing beginning from the next iteration. So this is a very important thing in Agile. All of these things, we will talk about them in next videos in a more practical way. So these are the 12 Agile principles that are part of the Agile Manifesto. Beginning from the next video, we will begin to talk about the practices and the methodologies that are used in Agile environment. All the practices and the methodologies that we will talk about in next videos are based on the 4 values and the 12 principles. And that's why it is very important at the beginning of your Agile journey to understand the 4 values and the 12 principles.